There are several issues Trump has to deal with in the region. The first is the Iranian-Israeli conflict. About a week after taking office, Trump implemented the maximum pressure policy on Iran, aiming to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, eliminate its regional network, and counter Iran's weapons advancement. One of the most important issues for Trump is preventing Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. This aligns with the Israeli rejection of an Iranian nuclear program and Prime Minister Netanyahu's threats to directly strike Iran if it acquires nuclear weapons. Trump's policy is against Iran's nuclear program and supportive of Netanyahu on this issue. But unlike Netanyahu, Trump expressed a desire to make a deal with the Iranians rather than simply attacking them. This may be because he is aware of the dangers of any military operation against Iran and the risk it poses in further destabilizing the region or even triggering a war between the Iranians and the Israelis. Still, Trump remains firm in his opposition to Iran's nuclear ambitions. He described on a podcast,
"But there are only two alternatives there: blow them up nicely or blow them up viciously."
As for the Arab-Israeli conflict, we move to the second issue, which is the Palestinian question. What is Trump's policy towards the Israelis? Trump and the Americans are of course very close to the Israelis, but in researching this video I found things that suggest that the issue is more complicated than I expected. First is Trump's relationship with Netanyahu. As mentioned, Netanyahu supports a military strike on Iranian nuclear sites, while Trump prefers trying to deal first. In addition, many sources say that Trump's truce with the Houthis in Yemen was a surprise to Netanyahu. Not only that, but this truce came after the Houthis bypassed Israeli air defenses and attacked Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv. Furthermore, the truce included a provision allowing safe passage for American ships in the Red Sea without attacks from the Houthis, with no gains for the Israelis. These decisions are important for the Israelis because they feel that Trump is making decisions without consulting them. This comes in the context of Trump's visits last week to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE, but not to the State of Israel, even though traditionally the Israelis are supposed to be his most important allies. I did not find any official statements describing Trump's strategy or intentions regarding his decisions with the Israelis, but there are several possible explanations for his approach, based on my reading and research. Maybe Trump avoided an Israeli visit because the situation is tense due to the expansion of military operations in Gaza. Maybe he wants to stabilize the region in order to build commercial relationships among countries and expand the Abraham Accords. Maybe he wants stability so he can implement his plan for Gaza despite opposition from nearly everyone globally. Those are Trump's plans, but whether the Israelis or Arabs will agree to them is a completely different matter, especially if there's no truce or end to the war in Gaza. Of course, we also need to remember that tensions between Trump and Netanyahu don't necessarily mean tensions between Trump and the rest of the Israeli government. And it's important to keep in mind that most of Trump's administration, diplomats, and the Republican Party in general still support the Israelis overall. In any case, now we move on to the third issue, Trump's plan for Syria. Historically, since its independence in the 1940s, Syria has had poor relations with the United States and cooperated more with American rivals, especially Russia and Iran. But now the situation seems to be changing. Syrian President Ahmad al-Shara said of Trump that he is a president who will bring peace to the Middle East. Later, during Trump's visit to Saudi Arabia, he suddenly announced that the US would lift all sanctions on Syria, and afterwards he met with al-Shara in Riyadh. This was the first meeting between a Syrian and an American president in 25 years. But Trump's moves regarding Syria bring us again back to his differences with Netanyahu, since Netanyahu's government completely rejects the new Syrian government, and Netanyahu has launched attacks on sites in southern Syria. For Trump, building ties with the new regime in Syria might be important to prevent renewed Russian and Iranian intervention in the country. He may also be trying to increase US-Syria cooperation or even expand the Abraham Accords. But even if Syria becomes open to normalization or peace with the Israelis, Trump will still need to deal with Netanyahu's rejection of Ahmad al-Shara's government. Maybe Trump or Netanyahu will change their mind about al-Shara. Maybe someone more open to Syria will come after Netanyahu, but that's a separate question. In addition, Trump will need to balance between his allies who support al-Shara, especially Turkey, and his ongoing support for the Israelis. Within this policy, there's another issue Trump will need to deal with: America's reputation, which has declined significantly in the region, especially after the Gaza war, Trump's statements about forced displacement, and his comments about the Suez Canal. Such a reputation could push countries in the region to cooperate with other powers competing with the United States, like China. China has strong economic ties with all countries in the region. Additionally, this month, it conducted a joint military exercise with Egypt and previously brokered a peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Even the Israelis are working with China in the tech sector. So Trump's policy will have to address these changes too. And next week, we'll focus in more detail on China's policy in the Middle East. Thank you for watching.